All right, the time is 6 o'clock and I call the Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Citizens' comments. We don't have any now, but I am expecting someone. Okay, we're gonna do it. Approval of the minutes. So we have the approval, we have December 13th minutes and then the special meeting on December 21st. They both need to be approved. We can do them separately or together.
I make a motion that both minutes be approved.
Second that.
Okay, so the motion's been made and second to approve the minutes of December 13th, December 21st. It's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
No.
All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Excuse me. They're all approved. They're all aye. No correspondence. Public Works. Public Works has been taking advantage of our not snowy weather and doing work. It's been wet weather, so the wet has had them out clearing, working on road edging. There's been some damage to Chicago Turnpike. That's what you saw them doing the other day by the cemetery. The water runoff right there was going to the edge of the road and doing damage under the road. So they were putting riprap out there, so the water was not damaging the roads. Riprap is
Rocks.
rocks.
3 to 5 inch rock.
It's rocks to like stop the water from damaging.
Class 1, 2, and 3 riprap, just different sizes depending on how much retention you need.
Yeah.
Right.
So they've been working on that. They're right now working on Sand Hill Road, doing the edging there, unclogging drains. And they've been ongoing doing storm cleanup.
Getting
From the
a head
past-
start on the spring.
From the past couple of storms that we've had have created a lot of damage, so they've been working on that. And pole replacement. Been working on that also all over town. And they also have an open invitation to either of you if you want to
Right in the truck.
ride in the truck.
Oh.
Or swing by the garage or make an appointment to go over with them.
You can go
what they
snowplowing
do.
like Rick did.
Yeah. What they do and what they're working on, they're always there for questions and to show you around. So
Okay. I like that.
Yeah.
Informal invite.
Bring coffee and donuts.
that's Public Works, Finance.
I realized I handed you guys all the,
Uh,
so I'll try to do it from memory.
There's one.
But yeah, mine. So, Tony's been working on really hard on the Citizens Bank stuff. We've got the, positive pay started this week. And that's based on the security. It uploads our checks, what our expected checks are. So nobody can actually try to, cash a check out of our bank account without us knowing about it. That's basically what the positive pay does. He's got the stiff counts up and running and more investment. So he's been working, trying to gauge what our cash flow is for the next year or the past couple of years. So we can figure out what we can invest. Basically, he's been investing the unassigned funds, that amount. We're kind of keeping between the stiff account and the Citizens Bank. The stiff account has higher rates, so trying to keep what we can there. So far, this past month was $7,000. So he's projecting approximately 75,000 maybe for the next year, which is a huge increase from our 3,000. So it's
Of interest
Yeah.
income.
Yeah.
interest income alone.
And that's what, 0.35 of a mil? It's a third of a mil,
Yeah.
sorry.
basically.
Yeah, so it's a third of a mil. That's awesome.
So, yeah, yep, it's been all worth every penny. And is that all I have on there? I don't know if you have anything else on there.
Yep, that's it.
But most of this stuff has been working on. For me, I've been working on an audit with the small cities. The Department of Housing is doing the federal audit audited the Department of Housing, and now the Department of Housing is going down to the town level to do their audit. So I didn't work on the actual projects other than the finance end, and our grant writer is retired. So I'm having to go through and try to figure out exactly what it is they're asking for. I wasn't there for the trainings or any of that at the time, so kind of taking their paperwork and go through 6 boxes full of paperwork to try to match up what it is they're actually looking for. So they were kind enough to give me an extension till January 14th, but I have to have that done this week. So for 3 different grants,
The numbers up.
3 different years, and this 6 boxes worth of paperwork that needs to be sorted and scanned and uploaded to them. So that's kind of fun. Tracy, we've been all working on the benefits and the handbook, that kind of stuff. We've talked a lot about that. The next month, I gotta get the 1099 sent out. Worked with Tony. So some of the differences, now that we've had these new investment accounts, there's a few little extra accounts I have to reconcile with which is very simple, just basic transfer in and investment income. 457, so we've figured that out. If you'll notice on your pay stubs now, your complete account portion will now be on your pay stub. So we got that going.
We're self-correcting.
So we fix it and move on. Say nothing.
So
We
spoke
looked
to
at
everybody.
Yeah, we
We
looked
spoke to
at
the auditor, the IRS, we spoke
the
to
attorney.
the attorney, everybody.
self-correct.
This is what we needed to do, so we're good.
Better
Um,
than hiding it. That other attorney's advice was not.
No, that's what he.
No, that's
that was what he
exactly-
said.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he said to self-correct, so that's what he said.
Move forward.
Okay.
But he said Bob and weed, but
Yeah, he said self-correct.
There's new reporting now I need to do for the unions. Every 4 months, I gotta upload new, the simple little form, but another busy work form I gotta upload to union members to their union.
what is this information that they're collecting?
So basic contact information, home information, work information, start date, pay periods, those kind of things.
The stuff they should be doing, but they
Yeah.
want us to.
They want me to do it every 4 months now, but it's new legislation. It wasn't their choice. There's some new legislation out there that says they now have to have new contact information every 4 months for every union member.
But we have to do it and not their union rep?
So I have to send it to them, and then they have to probably send it out to the state.
I'm sure they get out the drive the accurate.
It's probably a lot to do with who's a member, a paying member, and who's a non-paying member.
Now they can choose.
Right. So and they probably need to make sure that their contact lists are updated because people's contact changes all the time, so. Simple, but it's just another one of those things you gotta remember. So that's what I've been working on.
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Julie?
Nope.
So was there any more discussion on moving to something other than a 457B? Or are we just gonna stick with
We
it?
have not discussed that, so we've got everything finalized with what we have. To move on to the state one, we can't.
Right,
continue.
that was a non-starter for,
So it's up to you guys. So most of the feedback I've gotten is why are we moving
Yeah.
from the employees?
was what, I'm sorry.
Why are we switching? That
Gotcha.
was Mostly the
They
answer.
don't care if it's more cost effective or not.
Yeah,
From our perspective, the state plan won't handle the way our contracts are negotiated.
And for them, it would be not as worthwhile because then they would have their plants. And now being invested at separate rates, or, now they, you want to consolidate it under one, not separate it into a piecemeal and a bunch of little plans. So if you can find another plan at the pay rates we can find at the state, then.
which we're not going to because we don't have the scale. So,
Yeah.
okay, so it sounds like we're gonna just stick with what we've got, particularly now that we've fixed it.
Yeah, we've reviewed it and updated.
The plan documents updated, everything's, so if there's any other suggestions you guys have, or,
Let sleeping dogs lie, move on.
yeah.
Let's stick with the 457B as it stands corrected. So, I like that.
It was a good,
Effort.
a good thought and a good effort, but it's a good.
And we
thing
learned
to
a lot.
review. Yeah, I learned a lot about it.
Right, no, we did our due diligence in reviewing, looking at our other options. We
Good.
thought we found something. It turns out it wasn't viable. So
So
we
do
did our
need
due
to
diligence,
put
yeah.
it out to the employees now who have signed up for the state to say, hey, this is where we're at with it.
And we need to follow through with Equitable, on reaching out, working with the employees to learn more about what they
Mhm.
have.
And now start setting up, like, okay, you need to
Meetings.
come and have so many meetings a year for us with our employees to talk about their.
Our plan is pretty small, be like, get this guy down here once a year.
And that's been,
A problem.
Cause I think he's earning about 0.75% on plan balances, so amounts to about $22,000 is gross dealer concession is what is credited to him. Plus he probably gets a 1% on cash flow, which in this plan maybe amounts to about $50,000 a year. That's about $500, so he probably earns about 2,500 on the plan, of which he probably only gets paid 50% and 60% of, so he's making maybe $1,000, $1,200 to have his name on the plan. So he'd probably come out for a day, like it's about a day of his time. But we should get the day of his time.
right.
Yeah.
If he wants to, employees to
wants to-
start
if he
investing
wants to
more and
do
increase
what?
it, he would be here to say, hey, you get more, if you put more in, here's your reasons why.
Because if we're not satisfied with him as the agent servicing the plan, we can simply tell him, we're picking another agent, go somewhere else.
Mhm.
So it's still stayed Equitable, but it would have to be somebody who's affiliated and appointed with Equitable.
Do we need to do anything with the accounts that were opened with the state? Did we actually?
Right, that's the thing, is everybody did open an account, and I've had questions like, what do I do with it? And one employee said that there's $100 in there. And I'm like, I don't know how it got there.
I gotta check my account. Well, actually, if the account is open,
There might be
you
a
might be able
$100
to
credit.
transfer, for people who have a balance.
On another
you might be
account.
able to roll money from, your federal plan is probably cost effective, but
If you have old plans or something,
yeah, because their plan is 2 basis points in expenses. Our plan is, almost 1% in
Mhm.
expenses. So get an old 401k, it's an old simple IRA, you might be able to roll it in there, and that might be a good thing.
Do we just keep them all open, or like, since they've been set up? or-
Yeah, let's find out, what's eligible to roll with. Call the girl up. Got the accounts up and all the hard work spent
Right.
time.
right. Tony has the contacts, so we'll talk to Tony about reaching out to them and say, hey, this is what we've decided, what are we gonna do? Or what can we do? Maybe there's a discussion with the employees. A meeting, some kind of meeting, to have the employees come in and say, hey. Because the employees essentially signed them up. So I don't know that I could do anything because, I didn't have access to them to begin with. So if you as an employee signed up, it may be up to you as an employee to shut it down too. I have a listing of those who actually did it, but. I don't know, it's a good question.
Yeah, that's true. Any other questions?
I'm good.
Moving
Thank you,
on.
Julie.
Thank you. Old business, ARPA funds update, I don't have anything. Baptist Church Well Project, no news on that. Ordinances, nothing. Forge Hill Bridge, we haven't had any updates on that. Municipal Ice Creek,
No updates on that.
no updates. the meeting house demolition, has been complete. We are just waiting to close that out. We gotta do an inspection and then that'll be done.
Do we need to? They have to do asbestos abatement as part of the demolition. Do we need to do soil testing?
I don't think so. That was, they didn't, the type of asbestos that it was like in the shingle. So they only did testing off the actual building,
They didn't
not
do
the
soil
ground.
testing.
They didn't do any ground.
Okay,
They said the kind that it was, it's not really an airborne kind. It's like a
they didn't
plastic.
intend, so.
It's like a plastic more than a airborne, so they weren't really worried about being like cross contaminating. Unless you're really gonna lick it or something.
So have we heard from the abutting
I haven't
property
heard
owner
anything.
as to its claim to the land?
No,
All right, well, and come springtime, we're gonna have to blend it with grass or
yeah,
meadow seed or something.
Yeah,
Flower.
we have money left, well, after we close it out, so I think we like put more money into it than it was gonna cost to do the demolition, just in case we had other stuff come up.
It's
Okay.
there to pay for the mystic air quality.
Yeah, so there might be a little bit left over for that and for a fence and.
As a suggestion, it might be worth calling the Connecticut Agricultural Extension, their Master Gardeners Program.
Yeah.
Because they'll have to do a volunteer project as part of their recompense for participating in that program for free. Maybe we can get somebody to come down and do us a butterfly garden planters.
Yeah, they have grants out for the garden stuff too.
Especially if we had money to do something, 'cause usually with those people, when they get those volunteer projects, like, yeah, we have $50, we want a garden the size of this room.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because they did. I think we missed it's like winter now, so all the.
You noticed.
But they, usually when it gets springer, closer to spring, I can't even talk anymore, it's not like days, but. The grants roll out for garden projects and stuff, and I know Mary, we were talking about applying for that for a historic garden, so that we could, for the plants and all that stuff. Yeah, there's always funding out there.
Something low maintenance,
Yeah.
Exactly.
poison ivy.
There's already somewhere around there. The Gate Street,
Arborvitae's, just plant them. That's it.
the Gate Street, Recreation Master Plan, Committee met last night, and so that's starting and moving forward and, has good momentum.
They'll be meeting first Mondays.
The second Mondays. Meeting on the second Mondays of the month, except for March. We might have a little conflict there because of the Board of Assessment Appeals. Hi, Mike. Hi, come on in.
Sorry to be late.
It's all right, we hadn't even gotten there yet, so. The municipal complex improvement, we haven't done that yet.
Meeting with Matter Construction to go over with John the planner to start some kind of RFP to figure out how to. move forward.
Oh, that's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, forgot about that, so, yeah. The volunteer fire station improvement and design. The committee has chosen a architect and engineer. So we just need to appoint them. And they chose, Silver Prucelli and Associates, and that was the bid at 136,600. So that's what they're recommending for the design.
Is the 136,600 just for the design?
This is a design for,
$136,600 just the design.
it's engineering and architectural design. It's to do bunk rooms, showers, The plan is to go above the community room for that. And then all of the
drains in the garage,
drains
right?
in the garage to put a, like a.
Water oil separator?
Yeah, water oil separator so they can wash in there and it's not set up properly. And that's,
When they built the building, they just changed the code.
that's gonna affect, and even putting the showers in, it's all gonna affect the drains and the water. All of the whole water system there needs to be like redone. And it's to also for the designs for a training area in the back, a separate building, because they have vehicles that they need. They don't like smaller vehicles that don't fit in the base to store. So it would be a storage area for the smaller vehicles and then a larger space for indoor training.
Did you want to go over the recommendation the attorney had provided you about all this?
I've been going back and forth with the committee, so. This company is it's actually one of the biggest invest companies that does fire departments. That's their.
Shtick.
Yeah, it's there and they're good and they're big and, so far the census with our planner. And I agree too that they're capable of doing a follow through of a manager or whatever. If we choose to for the next phase, and I think that I'm confident, especially after talking to the planner that, they're dependable for what I was worried about in my normal plan.
Is that 4 o'clock this afternoon?
Yes. So I think that they're like the rock stars of the fire department building. So, like the North, I think they did the North Stonington. They just did like a big training facility. It's there all fires. So
That's their niche.
it's their thing. And they do a good job. Yeah.
And apparently they've got availability, because rock stars normally do not.
They have a huge team and they have, they're good because they cover all of the different areas that we have in the project, which is, it's hard to find a team that does the engineering for the drains, that does the building, that does the outdoor training areas. They cover everything. And they have the capabilities of doing management.
So what do you look for?
A motion to accept them for the project.
I second motion for SPA.
All in favor of Silver Petruccelli and Associates for the fire station improvement design. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, any discussion? They're good. All right, so next is the USDA grant. So we do have 2 resolutions today. One is for the USDA grant and one is for the cemetery grant, which is what I'm guessing is for the cemetery. We'll do the USDA grant first. The USDA grant is the one that we're looking at for the, public water funding. Be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen may enter into with and deliver to the Rural Utility Service Part 1780 Water and Waste Loans and Grants CFBA 10.760 PPG, the Pre-Development Planning Grants Program, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary and appropriate. And further resolve that Tracy Hansen as first selectman of the town of Allentown is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and to do and perform all acts and things which she deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including not limited 2, executing and delivering all agents and documents contemplated by such documents. So we just need to approve the rest.
Question?
Yeah.
Are you going, non-binary now?
I don't know, I don't know why it says he, she. That's why I read it as she, so.
Okay, just was wondering.
Generic blanket.
I make a motion to approve the resolution
Okay, motion's been made and seconded
With the
to
questionable language.
approve the USDA resolution. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried none. All right, so the next is the cemetery grant, which is why we have guests today. We have, the state puts out, trying to find it. I don't know if you guys, if you printed a copy or got a copy, I don't know if Jen forwarded it to you. So we have a neglected cemetery grant that the state OPM puts out every couple of years. It's a first come, first serve grant, so it usually goes pretty fast. I talked to Jen from the Historical Society, and she's worked with Mike Carroll on some of the cemeteries in town, and they have some to recommend that we use the grant for. It's up to $5,000 grant, and it covers
basically everything.
anything you need to do to the cemetery.
Yeah.
Yep, so Mike's gonna help me fill it out. I think we're looking at the Kinney Cemetery for the first to see.
So we've got, if I remember correctly, we've got 13 cemeteries in town. How many of them are in disrepair? And I'm assuming Kinney's the worst if that's first on the list.
Well, no, Kinney has great visibility, being right on the side of the road. It's perfect, because people, when we do cemeteries, people always want to stop by and see what we're doing and so forth. There's quite a few that are deep in the woods. And they're a lot harder to get to. With that, you don't have to really worry about it. If anyone, maybe older people or handicapped people want to come out, they certainly can. Whereas in the woods, it's a lot tougher. But aside from, say, like Robbins or, private held ones, all your others are abandoned. And some we went to last year, you could barely even see anything. We had to get in there and you could see 5, 6, however many stones, but the tree growth is 30, 40 feet high. You can, if you step away 10 feet and you're looking, you may not even see it. So, I mean, that one there, you do have a lot of open area to it, but a lot of disrepair, whether it was due to trees falling, branches falling, maybe they got knocked over inadvertently when people were cleaning. And unfortunately, vandalism is another thing.
Okay, yeah, so the next resolution is the same thing as the USDA one. It's an agreement that we have to show to apply for the grant. And I think that we can together fill out the application and get it in as soon as possible. Because I know
It's a reimbursement grant,
Yep.
so a lot of times people, when they, it's a 2-year project.
Yep.
Every 2 years it opens up, but a lot of times, unfortunately, because there's no real oversight committee,
Mhm.
so towns will say, oh, we have X amount of money that came in, well, here's a check and here you go, and then nothing gets accomplished.
Mhm.
So what it's supposed to be is a reimbursement. So we show, here's our purchases during that time, and it's reimbursed, and it's, supplies and things of that nature.
What, does it cover professional services? I mean, if you hired somebody to come in and
Yep, so,
brush or stuff.
yep, it does everything, any overgrowth, trees, anything of that nature. Of course, if the town has resources and is able to help out, that lessens it, great. Because anything that's not used goes back to the general fund, and then it rolls over to other programs and for more, the next 2 years for neglected cemeteries, where if it all gets used, well, that's great, as long as it's used correctly. But yeah, it does cover everything. It doesn't cover like your gas or your lunch or anything like that, but it covers everything else.
It says it does actually cover the fuel for the machine.
Yeah, for the machines, but
Yeah.
not for your
Had to
gas.
drive there,
Yeah.
Not for your
No.
travel expenses.
And even still, like, when you're looking at stones and cleaning and resetting, there's a lot of times that people might come in and say, oh, it's, a really big amount. And then there's other times where, each stone is separate and different. So you might have a stone that's 6 inches lower than what it should be. That's not gonna be a big cost to reset that correctly.
Right.
But then if you have a stone that's broken or completely buried, now you have to go a little bit further on it.
So the way to apply, we apply for it and then we can't spend the money until we actually can't spend the money until they.
Right, it doesn't,
Yeah,
yeah,
or not.
yeah.
But if we can go through and estimate like how much we think. What the project will entail and how much.
But then it doesn't get spent until there's receipts showing.
Yeah.
This is what we've done.
Okay, so thank you. This grant's been coming through ever since I've been here and every time I'm like, we have this, anyone want to help? So thank you.
Yeah,
Even
it's a
just-
terrific program. It's the only one in the state of Connecticut for abandoned cemeteries. And a lot of times, even though they're abandoned and they might be on state property or they might be in someone's backyard, they're actually not owned by anyone.
Right.
No one can actually own them unless they're a church or an association or something
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, thankfully, you guys are on board because some towns are like, who cares, those are people from 200, 300 years ago, but
Right,
Was.
there's no one actively visiting the cemetery.
right. But
Some
that's
of them are way out in the woods, like I couldn't even imagine how you get like stuff out there to work on, and some of them were out.
Yeah, we did one right on Hell Hollow. I've been working that case, as I'm sure you're aware, for a number of years, and that was 400 yards into the woods, give or take.
Yeah.
That was, and when we first found it, we had a hand-drawn map that was given to us. But it didn't say, well, go here, and we didn't know the starting point. Almost 3 hours it took us to find this, and if we had went that direction, we would have missed it altogether. So that one, we've never revealed the location, so the public doesn't know about it.
Right. Yeah, great. Well, thank you. And when we get the information and we can get the grant, so thank you.
Absolutely, I look forward to talking to you
Yeah.
more, so
Thank
thank you guys, enjoy yourself.
Thank you for coming.
Have a good night.
Have fun.
All right, so the resolution for the cemetery grant. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen may enter into with and deliver to the State of Connecticut Office of Policy and Management for the 2023 neglected cemetery account grant, any and all documents which it deems to be necessary and appropriate, and further resolved that Tracy Hansen as first selectman of the town of Valentine is authorized and directed to execute and deliver any and all documents on behalf of the Board of Selectmen and to do and perform all acts and things which he deems to be necessary or appropriate to carry out the terms of such documents, including but not limited to executing and delivering all agreements and documents and contemplated by such documents.
Make a motion
Question for language.
with the language.
Second,
So the motion's been made and seconded to approve the resolution to enter into the neglected cemetery account grant with OPM. Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
this is
Okay.
the first time we've been able to get a.
Since I've been here, yeah, for the cemetery, because either it was too late because it goes fast, the applications go fast because they only do it, like you said, every 2 years. And I don't even know if they did it the last 2 years because of COVID, they may have done it. But they go fast, so you have to get the applications in quick, because 1 year, by the time I had someone say they had a cemetery they wanted to work on, it was already closed, the application. So.
Just, out of curiosity, something like this, so many things are on a recurring cycle. This is every other year. Sidney Collins bridge is every, year before the winter. Is there a calendar that automatically pops all the stuff to remind us that?
No.
Let's go out, this is gonna be available.
No, because these aren't like the grants like this aren't always available. The state, it depends on the state funding and everything, so that's why they could go a while without having it. They let you know when they open up, and they could open up like anytime. So that's why it's hard to plan for grants.
The reason why I ask is, you know, may rule forever,
Yeah.
right? But should, you know, you move on to something else a year from now or 2 years. or
No,
4
it's
years
why you
from now.
have to pay attention to your email, because you don't, especially with grants, you don't know when they're gonna open up and when they're not, when they don't have a grant that you might be counting on because the funding didn't get approved for it, which is what it's usually dependent on.
Right, but even when we have a much less experienced first selectman, is where you were going, right, Jim?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, how do we, is there any way to?
know that
Like
they're
it.
coming up,
No,
not until you get the email. You sign up for, OPM or the state or, you know, and you get emails on that.
I understand, and I take to heart what you're both saying, that, you know, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't, but there's a certain cyclicality to things that do occur, and, you know, it's kind of like hurricanes, you know, every 2 years, but sometimes you don't get a hurricane.
Certain grants you do know come in every year. You know.
yeah,
If we had a binder or a book, whether it's electronic or physical, something that, you know, in these months, and this is the things that typically happen cyclically, not guaranteed that will happen, but, you know, for instance, like, you know, when the paperwork has to be put in for drawing down the drawdown, that's gotta be in whenever it is for 9 months down the road, and who to contact, who to follow up. I think it's important to have some sort of book of knowledge that, because as good a job as you're doing, you may not always want to be doing this, and you may not be here to do it. And the next person that comes along, when you walk out the door, I mean, that's what human resources are.
yeah, that's what we've been
You're,
trying.
you're
to
leaving,
do.
all the knowledge walks out the door, and then somebody else comes in, and they have to figure out how to reinvent the wheel, and God forbid Julie decides to, you know, retire, and move away as well too, if you both go.
And that's kind of what happened
That's
with
what we
Tracy
did.
and I, the past first selectman and the past secretary both left at the same time, so it's been Tracy and I just. Oh my God.
Reinventing the wheel.
Where did this happen?
Right.
You know, it is reinventing the wheel. So absolutely, it definitely feel the need to have some kind of binder saying these are your standard. Things that have to get done every year, and these are the outliers, you know, these are things that could have, so definitely need it, but it's,
We're still figuring out.
I mean. You get so buried just trying to keep up with what you have to do, you don't have time to do all that extra stuff.
Well, sure, you know, I suppose every time something like this happens, right?
Right now, I have a binder of all the grants we've been working on, and as we can.
Yeah, we have
So
a grant
do
binder.
have
So
that.
there's either that, or there's also a resolution that's attached to that grant. So
Yeah.
in a sense, that might be the embryonic essence of a book of knowledge for cyclicality and government funding, because we don't have resources.
Right.
You know, we have to live on grants from Big Brother.
And before, I think Tracy started, I don't know how many grants they were putting in for, because they didn't really have anybody who could write the grants and
And
take
to
the time
respond
do
to
that.
the emails, because the emails come in like crazy, and if you don't have someone that can respond and.
And it depends on the person who's doing the job, whether they want to.
Yeah.
I
There's a
understand.
lot to do.
I understand. When, you know, this business was run as a part-time business, it didn't leverage any of these resources to the benefit of the community.
Mhm.
But, you know, we're now at a point where we are. I'm just simply saying to keep the ball. you know,
Yeah,
You don't want the stone rolling back downhill, you know, if you push it this far up and you move off to do something else, and Julie follows you 2 years later. Bowls, you know, the rocks now roll down quite a ways. If there was some book of knowledge that next person that comes
It's called
along.
the filing cabinet of knowledge right now. So.
Well, so, you know,
It's not
something,
really
you know,
common.
when Julie's going through
It's
6
just-
boxes of paperwork from somebody else's grants, and like, what is any of this about?
right.
Yeah.
And you, like, and what we're learning too, and it's gonna happen. You have federal grants, you have state grants, and then you have private grants. They're completely different criteria for every
Criteria.
single one. You have small cities grants and steep grants, from the DOT to the DCD. Even though it's a steep grant, it's from two different departments. Their requirements are different. So as much as you try to be, you know, to learn all this stuff,
Yeah.
I get a new person in and they change all the rules on me.
They have all new people now because everyone retired, so. I think-
But one thing that I think has been helpful is, and one of the big helpful things in doing something just like that is having the planner. He's been essential in knowing what grants are out there, what grants you can apply for, and how to get these things started and how to do them. So I think
He's done them
that's what a
before.
town planner does for your town as well, is help move beyond just your tax paying and move on to grant writing and grants to do more projects.
He knows the grants to match up to what projects we want to do.
And it's having the essential personnel doing that job.
And to do the work with it too.
So he's been a huge help too.
But the grant for him goes away when?
Yeah, and then the discussion is up now. With
Right, this is
planning
year
and zoning.
2.
Yeah.
He's done in November, but the discussion is up with planning and zoning to keep him up.
Because he's been doing a lot for planning and zoning that wouldn't be done otherwise. Because they don't have paid staff and they need.
So for next year's budget, we're moving him from the,
Freebie column.
right,
This is
onto
gonna cost you
the
money.
actual town budget. I think that's gonna be not one, but 2 slides about, justifying, this is how much the town planner has saved us
Well, we got
and
a free
or brought
grant,
in.
So.
you know,
that's like-
I think it's gonna be a very, I think it's gonna be very cut and dried on, the town planner has saved us, 100K and brought in 300K in grants, and we're paying, what, 100K for the town planner, or whatever it is we're paying,
48,000.
48,000. So, I mean, my made up numbers there, that's,
hire a
that's an
person and
8X,
A planner for what we get. for
right?
him.
That's, it's 8X return
Yeah.
on that investment. So,
Because not only as the town planner, as you're starting from like what we've done with the ARPA funding, being able to start. Okay, now we have all the plans to get started. There's tons of grants out we can't apply for because we don't have plans. You have to be shovel ready. And this is what a lot of the ARPA funds have done, is will now be shovel ready. So when all these grants come out there, he can say, okay, we can apply for these now because we already have the plans, we already have the cost estimates, we already have all this in place, ready to go. Which,
That's when our grant.
that's the other thing that's been stopping us from applying for grants. I don't know how it's gonna cost. I don't know how big a deal. I'm not an engineer. I don't have the money for an engineer to start, even to start looking at applying for this grant. But now we will, and that's one of the best things he's done for us. I think. It's gotten us there. So, you're never gonna get what's gonna happen at the firehouse if we hadn't had somebody to go to them and say, look, this is really what we can get you. I know you don't think that, the town doesn't have the ability to pay for this, but this is how you can get here, X, Y, and Z. So he has the experience and the knowledge we don't have.
Mhm.
And he approved it with the firehouse,
Excellent. On the next thing.
That's my 2 cents. Sorry.
So, book of knowledge and 2 extra slides.
yes, justifying the planner.
The employee handbook, we're still working on that. We have, we're signing on to APS, the payroll company.
Oh, yeah, that was a question,
APS or ADP?
We're on
APS. We're on
ADP.
ADP. We're switching.
but
to
we're moving to
APS.
APS. So we were able to fix things for the 457 with ADP.
Yeah.
Okay,
So we
Sorry.
fixed it.
We'll move forward with the next
No,
one.
we'll-
right, so it's already set up, so it should be easy to set up with APS.
And so.
Anybody want a lifesaver?
I'm good, thank you.
So all of the stuff that they sent us. To get into to sign up for the APS and to. Figure out all of our deductibles for vacation.
Benefits, yeah.
Benefits and. It's working hand in hand with the handbook and signing on the APS and. They'll help us figure it out too, so it's all gonna be together, so we're still working on it.
Okay.
Getting there. The angel tree, I just put that on here. The angel tree was a huge success this year. It was absolutely amazing. The community coming together and providing for families in town. There were each, child had a list, there was actually a list of things on there, and pretty much everyone bought something from everything on the list, so it was just amazing, the whole place was full of stuff, and gift cards, we had tons of gift cards for the families and the seniors, so I just wanted to thank the residents for that, because that was pretty amazing. Driveway permit. We have two driveway permits. One is for 98 Brown Road. The house is ready to get their certificate of occupancy.
Is this the 6 or the 8 unit?
It's one of the new ones. The driveway is ready and into paved, but because of the season, they can't pave it yet. So we still have their deposit, so we can approve the driveway, and then they would get their bond back. So like everything's fine except they just have to pave it, so we're just gonna have to hold on to it until they can pave it.
Okay.
So, but they're gonna get their CO because it's meeting all the requirements so far, and we have their bond, they'll get it back when it's finished. I just need a motion to approve that so they can get their CO.
See you only, sure. So
For
move.
98 Brown Road.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded to approve the driveway permit for 98 Brown Road, pending they will get their bond back. So we'll approve it for the CO, but they'll get their bond back when the driveway is paved.
And approved.
Okay. And then this is the action, an application that came in for a driveway on 89 Little Bridge. They haven't surveyed yet to mark where the driveway is gonna be. Because they can't start their construction or anything until the driveway is approved by us. I'm just requesting that we approve it pending the location of where they put it, because they didn't put the location, they didn't mark their location yet. So pending them marking the location and the approval from the Public Works, because they're the ones that decide if it's in a proper location and if it's gonna damage the road. So I would just like to approve the application on our end pending that, so that they don't have to wait for us to have a meeting before they can do anything.
Fine.
Seconded.
And this is for, motion's been made and seconded to approve the 89 Villa Bridge application, pending.
And this is new construction.
Yeah, it's actually not called new construction because they've had a house there before, so it's called something else.
So it's a tear down and rebuild.
Yeah. I don't remember what it's called. But there was a house there before, they tore it down, but there's no like. Usually when that happens, there's an already existing driveway, but for some reason there wasn't one there, so. That would have made this a whole lot easier for me not have had to do this, but.
So the previous house had no driveway.
Yeah, or I don't know how long it's been torn down, at least 10 years, so maybe it just like,
Oh, the driveway is just overgrown.
yeah.
There's no existing.
There's no existing apron or anything, so maybe it was like clogged in where it didn't have to have one, I don't know. But there's no house. We made the motion on that?
We did.
Yes,
Did we vote on it?
we did not.
Okay,
Oh, all in favor?
all in favor?
Aye. Now we have.
Opposed? Okay. Well, we're not gonna do executive session because we're still working on all that. I can't really do the employee contracts until we finish the handbook and benefit stuff.
Other business?
I don't have any other.
I was gonna say, bike trail.
Do we have a date for that meeting?
No, I haven't. I heard back. They haven't whatever they have is passed on to DEP and they're not gonna schedule anything until they get feedback from them, so. I don't have anything.
So I was thinking about this and I'm all for this, but one of the things that I was thinking about is a mountain bike trail, how much increase in call outs is this gonna be for the fire department?
Well, that's gonna be part of what we'll talk to them about.
Yeah, because it was, there's gonna be a lot of injuries.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's only 5% of the people using it, that's still gonna be a measurable increase over what exists now for call outs. And is it gonna be fully accessible, or is the fire department gonna need a new Humvee?
No, those are all that will all be part of
So-
when we get to that part of the planning, but. they're
Yeah,
not even-
but that was stuff that I was just thinking about last week or the week before. Just, yeah,
From the last conversation was just where they're just working on. To incorporate it to like downtown, not meaning that it'll come out down here, but to divert people to downtown, to come to the restaurants, to come to.
Right.
Our.
The restaurant. No longer have to.
So that's where when they reached out to me last.
we get, 200 mountain bikers per weekend.
Maybe there would be.
Justify two. There may be.
So they were asking
Yep, Dunkin'
me,
Donuts.
well, we have camping, we have the Tamarack for.
Yep,
for people
Sunny's,
that wanna
yeah,
stay there, and
grinders.
Sunny's grinders are pretty awesome, so.
Yeah.
We have, there are businesses that could impact in a good way, so.
Right,
Yes, but there are, as Gail's pointed out, other impacts, and one of them that pops to mind is, written in there is the Airbnb. The boom to the Airbnb business as people come up here to mountain bike. And up in North Conway, where our ski place is, Airbnbs have been anything but a boom. They have really affected the quality of life in neighborhoods. Because the idiots that show up for these things for the weekends, and have keggers and then disappear, they make, they change the quiet culture of your rural community. That's one effect. And then the other effect is these Airbnbs largely are people who are buying property out and just looking for rental income.
We already have this in town, and we already have that happening in town regardless of.
I know that it's happening, but
Yeah.
this would be one more thing to push further along. And what the effect of all this is that what little affordable housing there is in town, it's gone.
Right.
yeah, and that's where, ordinances are popping up everywhere. I think Jackson, I looked into the ordinances in Jackson around Airbnb. And, but in Connecticut, there's, basically, if you're not a, major municipality, then, most of the small towns are putting ordinances on the books, regulating short-term rental.
Yeah, it's.
A combination of both.
It's a combination of both, because I was already talking to John about this too, because it's already happening in town. And it's happening mostly for our closeness to the casinos. And of course, summer stuff, so it's already happening. And it's more of the focus would be on business, like somehow, having a required to license as a business. Because that would give a way to regulate it more if we knew for as far as a business. Other than that, there's not really, other towns have been trying to do things and it's unsuccessful on how to do it. So.
I know that, in the IRS code, you can rent your house for 2 weeks out of the year and you're not required to declare that income.
Right.
But anything more than 2 weeks out of the year, it's now considered passive income and it's subject to taxes. And I think that, even if somebody were just renting out a room part-time or renting their whole house out, more than 2 weeks out of the year, you're a business. And
Right, but
and should
with the
apply to
enforcement, how do you get anyone to register other than those who are already
But
willing
that's
to
where
do the
it
right
is for
thing?
everything, and a lot of it comes up with not just it's not just like the house is all going away. There's issues with building codes, like how many people are staying there. There's issues with fire codes. Are places being advertised as Airbnbs that are like safe for people to be in? Because I know, I don't know if it was Rhode Island or somewhere in Connecticut, someone just built a tree house in their yard and had that as their Airbnb, and that's not. Who's inspecting these? They're not, they're just, anyone can set up an Airbnb anywhere.
My former neighbor across the pond was going the treehouse route
So
before he moved on.
there should be some way to make sure that it's safe and some sort of registry for that reason. But I don't, how to get there is another story. But it's happening everywhere, because I've talked to other towns that have the same problem. So, and I've
Well-
already been talking to them about trying to figure out how to do it in a way you can't really stop people. It's because if you see the other side of it, there's a lot of people, we have an older population, they're retiring, and maybe they want to move to Florida in the winter and Airbnb their house. Or, so you can't, if you can't tell private residents who own a house what they can and can't do with that house too. So you gotta look at that side too. If they're making money off it because they can't get money.
Well, some of the things that some towns have done that have been try to balance is define short-term rental. You can't rent for just a weekend. It has to be a minimum of 30 days. And that deals with a lot of the yahoos.
Right.
But people who are going to come in for a couple of weeks for whether it's visiting nurse is a great example for midterm rental. Discourage short-term rental, but do planning and zoning and ordinances to encourage midterm and long-term rental. So that way, you've got people who are coming in for 30, 60, 90 days because they're working at the casino, they're working at EB or visiting nurse.
Then again, you gotta think, who's gonna enforce that? Are we gonna hire someone that's just gonna be
Well,
checking all the Airbnb?
But, isn't that what every government rule and regulation is? Where you write all the stuff and it's only enforced when you become a problem. When you determine that it's a short-term rental, it can't be less than 2 weeks, let's say. So somebody's renting out their house in the pond or whatever it is, fine. But it turns out you're renting it for just a week or for, whoever's gonna pay $1,000 for a weekend for a kegger. And they've got a large fire in the yard, so forth, so on, and pine trees around and everything else. You call the state police, they show up. They've violated this town ordinance, that town ordinance, you hit the property owner
But we
in the pocketbook.
also have property owners that like. And I do Airbnb for 3 days, because we just go away for a weekend, so, and we're a family, so you can't. I think by doing that, you're limiting families that need to get away. Some people can't get a whole week off of work. Go away.
No, there's looking at it from both sides, and it's, trying to do that balancing act of, minimizing impact to the town. While allowing people to do what they want to do from an entrepreneurial standpoint.
Yeah. It's difficult, and other towns have been talking about it and trying to figure it out too. Towns bigger than us and towns smaller than us, and no one has the perfect answer for it.
Well, pursuit of perfection is the enemy of good.
If you come across any
Just out of
thing,
curiosity, out of the 169 towns in the state of Connecticut, how many are smaller than us?
there's quite a
Great.
few.
I was gonna say, we have to be in the bottom 10.
Yeah, maybe, I think we're in like the bottom 20. So
Okay.
we're not the smallest.
No, I knew we weren't the smallest, but I was like, there can't be
Union's
that
the
many.
smallest, they have like 820 people or something. They're definitely the smallest, but I think we're in like,
Bridgewater small.
we're in like the top 20, but not the 10.
Okay.
So.
No, it was just your comment.
I don't know what I'll figure that out.
All right, well, there was that, and then for the other, I was gonna suggest, I talked to Tracy about it and I just want to bring it up again. I'm really pleased with what happened with the Methodist Meeting House. You know, the building had long since passed a point of
Safety.
rehabilitation, never mind safety. But since I go to the post office every day, I get to see all the blight on Main Street, and I'm suggesting to Julie that we need to start looking at blight ordinance of some sort. Because in my mind, there's properties down at Beach Pond on North Shore Road, Fort Hill Road, that are just sitting there decaying. And, you know, clearly somebody's holding on to the land, waiting to sell it, you know, at a better price later on. But as you look at these buildings, they're an attractive nuisance. You know, you either end up with squatters or kids going in there, or, you know, or they turn into a rat house. And it's, I think, unfair for the property owners that, whether they're Airbnb-ing their property or they're living in their property, to have somebody bring blight like that into the neighborhood or even into the community, or like in front of the post office. So maybe the thing to do is figure out what the average value of the square foot of a house is in this town, figure out what a building lot's worth. And if somebody's house falls below that, then maybe they pay a greater rate than what their assessed valuation is. It would bring them up more towards what the average is as a penalty for the blight that they're bringing in the community, as an inducement or encouragement. That, you know, either tear the building down or fix the building up, but you can't leave it there for 20 years falling down.
If you wanna look into that and put something together in wording, we can run it, some of the stuff, I don't know if we legally can do that. But if you wanna put something together and do some research on it, we can run it by the attorney and find wording for it and see. We also gotta think of how it will affect other people too, that in a way that we wouldn't mean for it to do, so.
Well, and even on Main Street across from the post office, it irritates me when I drive down there. Mattresses are thrown out in front of the house. Sofas are thrown out in front of the house, and they've been there for a year, 2 years. And another town grid going down. Picked one up a couple of years back, but is as an association with blight, I think there has to be a way where the community can basically turn around to somebody and say, "Hey, look, you know, you need to clean this up. This is a health hazard. You have 90 days now to make corrective action. If not, where the town crew is going to come pick it up, and we charge $250 to take it away." So, and they don't do anything and they don't want to pay, fine. We put a mechanics lien on the house. So that when the house is titled, can't transfer until the lien is settled.
We found out that it costs money to do that and you have to go to court to do that. So that $250 will cost us like $5,000 when you're done with the legal fees and the lawyer and the judging and all
Then
that.
we make the lien even higher then. But there
Because
just has to be someone.
We went through that with the rat removal, because we were gonna put a lien on the house, where it was like $2,000 to get it cleaned up, and we were gonna put the lien on the house. And after looking at the cost of the legal fees, the lawyer, we actually have to go to court to do it. It wasn't even worth it. So,
Was that what the lawyer explained to us?
yeah, 'cause you actually have to go to court for it, so you can't just
I
like.
understood a mechanics lien was like the easiest thing in the world to put on a.
Yeah, but I don't think we as individuals can do it. We have to have a lawyer do it, is where it kicks in. Whereas the typical contractor who's getting shafted on payment for something, they can go to court on their own.
Where
And
government.
they
gets
can do
to-
pro se,
Yeah, we're like, a
whereas
different,
we can't do pro se as a government.
it's like a whole nother level, lots of money.
Because yeah, mechanics liens are, pro se, you fill out forms, you go before the judge and say, yes, here's my documentation, I'm owed this amount, so I want a mechanics lien, so I eventually get paid. So ordered. But we're a government.
We'll look into that, because it doesn't seem logical.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand an attorney will always tell you need an attorney to do this.
If you can figure out a way for us to do it, that may be an easier way to do a blight ordinance.
What is it, general code? general code, there's a lot of ordinances out there that other towns done. So you might be able to look there for other blight ordinances to see if they're very, instead of reinventing something.
But you have
what's
to,
out there and
and you have to do them in a way where if blight ordinance has been brought up in this town before, you have to do it in a way where people are gonna, if they have to vote on it. Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the other one.
Well, I know that, Jude City, or not Jude City, Griswold, had tried to pass one
Then,
because of Harris Johnson's,
Yeah.
messes around town. And they were able to get it knocked down, but
it's worth a try.
it's worth a try.
Yep.
I mean, I understand, people take the attitude that it's my property, I can do what I want. If I want to put 18 cars in my front yard, that's my right. I own this piece of land. I don't know.
Well, that's why we were gonna start, because I was working with Jody as a fire marshal on this, and we were gonna start with the abandoned houses first. And start with that, and then, get that passed, and then work on it from there, because those are the biggest dangers right now. They're all over town, are the abandoned properties that have the falling down houses and the squatting houses, and those were the ones that we were gonna go at first, because those are safety hazards, fire hazards, and a whole bunch of other stuff, yeah. And then
Well,
work
it's
on
2 or 3 houses on Main Street.
and then work on the other issues after that in separate way, because those are the ones that are harder to pass. So,
But I was just thinking, one of those abandoned houses no longer has a driveway. It's hard to see the house because the driveway is gone.
So one on Campbell,
Yeah, on Campbell Mill.
Yeah.
So there's not even, it's hard to tell that it's a building lot and that there's actually a house there because the driveway's gone. It's completely overgrown. So. And it's right on the corner of Shetucket and Campbell Mill. On the north side of Campbell Mill, as you're headed up Shetucket, there's a house right there that has no driveway because it's all overgrown, it's abandoned, and it's falling in on itself. So during daylight, when you're driving by, pull over and have a look.
On the north side of Shetucket.
On
you can't
Campbell
see
Mill,
it from
On Campbell,
Shetucket.
oh,
yeah.
It's like on the corner.
but it's Shetucket, Campbell Mill, it's right here.
I'll look for it. All right, that was what I wanted to bring up.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't have anything else. Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.